In the stillness of the night, when the wind whispered secrets through the ancient mango trees surrounding the school, the sound would begin. Tap, 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 slow and deliberate, like a heartbeat echoing through the deserted corridors of the girls' boarding school. It wasn't just any sound. It was the unmistakable click of high heels against the cold concrete floors, a chilling reminder that Miss Koi Koi was watching. Adesua had heard the stories. Every student had. It was almost a rite of passage at St. Agnes Girls' College, a prestigious yet eerie institution perched on the outskirts of town. But no one could confirm who started the tale or how long it had lingered. Some said it was the ghost of a former teacher who met a tragic end. Others believed it was a vengeful spirit of a student who died in mysterious circumstances. What all the versions agreed upon was this: when you heard the clicking of the high heels, you never, ever opened your eyes. Adesua didn't believe in ghosts. She was a senior now, one of the big girls as they liked to call themselves, and had never experienced anything paranormal in her 3 years at the school. But tonight was different. The final year students had a big exam the next day, and the usual electricity that buzzed through the dorm was replaced with a nervous silence. Adesua could feel the tension as she lay in her bunk, listening to the soft breathing of her roommates. Then, as if on cue, the tapping started. Tap, tap, tap. Adesua froze, her eyes wide open in the darkness. The sound was faint at first, coming from the far end of the corridor, but it grew louder with every step. She tried to convince herself it was one of the teachers patrolling, maybe even the new principal, who was rumored to be stricter than her predecessor. But the rhythm of the steps was too rhythmic, too precise. It wasn't just a walk, it was a performance. Adesua squeezed her eyes shut, her heart racing. She could feel the air grow colder, the kind of chill that seeped into her bones and made her shiver despite the heavy blankets. The tapping grew louder, closer, and then it stopped right outside their door. She could hear her friends holding their breath, the entire dormitory united in silent terror. Adesua's curiosity burned. What if she just peeked? What was the worst that could happen? Her best friend, Ijeoma, lay on the bunk below her, whispering prayers under her breath. But Adesua, ever the skeptic, was tempted. Slowly, she pulled the edge of her blanket away from her face, just enough to allow a sliver of light from the moonlit corridor to slice into her vision. The door creaked open. A wave of icy air flooded the room, and Adesua saw her. She was tall, impossibly tall, with long flowing hair and a blood-red dress that seemed to float as she moved. But it was her shoes that caught Adesua's attention, gleaming red high heels that clicked with every step. Miss Koi Koi's face was hidden behind a veil, but her presence was overwhelming, like an ominous force pressing down on the room. She moved between the beds, pausing as if inspecting each girl, her footsteps echoing like the countdown to something dreadful. Adesua held her breath, hoping the spirit would pass her by, but Miss Koi Koi stopped at her bed. The air turned colder, and the clicking stopped. Adesua's heart pounded so loudly she feared it would give her away. The spirit leaned over her, the veil swaying slightly, revealing pale, ghostly eyes. Adesua's mind screamed, but her body was frozen in fear. And then Miss Koi Koi spoke in a voice that was neither loud nor soft, but it vibrated with an otherworldly chill. "You shouldn't have looked." Adesua's scream caught in her throat as the spirit raised her hand, the fingers elongated and tipped with nails as sharp as knives. In a swift motion, Miss Koi Koi struck, and everything went black. The next morning, the dorm was abuzz with the usual chatter of students preparing for their exams, but Adesua's bed was empty. The teachers dismissed it as a case of exam jitters, insisting she would return soon, but Ijeoma knew better. She had heard the clicking heels too, the sudden silence that followed, and the faint whisper that made her blood run cold. That day, a pair of red high heels appeared at the school gate, perfectly polished but splattered with drops of blood. The staff dismissed it as a cruel prank, but Ijeoma and the others knew it was a warning. From that night on, no one ever dared to peek when they heard the sound of Miss Koi Koi's shoes. The mysterious high heels still echoed through the halls of St. Agnes Girls' College, a chilling reminder of the unseen presence that prowled the school grounds. And Adesua, she was never found, but the tapping of those cursed high heels served as a haunting testimony to the danger of curiosity and the price of disbelief. Tap, tap, tap. Miss Koi Koi was still watching. The moral lesson of this story is that curiosity can lead to danger when we ignore warnings and venture into the unknown. Sometimes, it's wiser to respect boundaries and heed the advice of others to keep ourselves safe.